Imagine walking into your own driveway on New Year's Eve, ready to relax with your family, only to find every single parking spot stolen by complete strangers. And when you call for help, nobody's coming for hours. That was me, standing in the freezing Chicago winter, steam coming out of my mouth and fury burning in my chest. But instead of giving up, I decided to give those freeloaders a night they'd never forget. By morning, their cars weren't just parked illegally. They were frozen monuments of pure revenge. If you've ever been disrespected in your own home or wished you could deliver a little poetic justice, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you love true stories of sweet revenge, because what you're about to hear might be the most chilling payback of all time. Setup: peaceful beginnings. For decades, my family lived in the quiet Chicago suburbs, managing 2 small apartment buildings. They weren't fancy, just 2 sets of 3 flats, the kind you see lined up down entire blocks in this city. But what set ours apart was the parking lot. See, most buildings barely had enough space for their own tenants. Street parking? Forget it. The side roads had small houses crammed together, with cars packed like sardines. But us, we had something special. Because this was also our home, we had room for 16 cars. For years, it was a blessing. Tenants parked easily, our family had space, and everything was smooth. The first signs of trouble. Then one day, cars started appearing in our lot. Cars we didn't recognize. No notes, no permission, just strangers treating our property like it was theirs. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake, someone visiting a tenant. But nope, it kept happening. The breaking point came when I decided to block one in. I parked right behind this shiny little sedan, smugly thinking I'd force them to knock and explain themselves. But when I came outside an hour later, my jaw dropped. This absolute jerk had driven through our bushes, literally tearing up our yard, to escape. I felt my blood pressure spike. My hands were shaking, not from the cold but from sheer disbelief. Who does that? Who treats someone else's home like an obstacle course? I called the cops. Surely, this would be enough to get something done. But nope. Sorry, nothing we can do. They brushed me off like it was no big deal. That's when I called a tow company. They came, put up big reflective warning signs, private parking. Violators will be towed. Finally, I felt some peace. For a while, it worked. The night everything boiled over. Until one unforgettable New Year's Eve. I pulled up to my home late that night, expecting to slide into my usual spot. Instead, every single space was taken. Not just by our tenants, by strangers. Cars jammed side by side, crammed at odd angles. They were even double-parked, blocking in other vehicles like this was some nightclub valet lot. My chest tightened. This wasn't an accident. This was a full-on takeover. I dialed the tow company in a fury, pacing in the snow. But it was New Year's Eve. They were swamped and couldn't make it for hours. I stood there, the icy wind biting my face, fists clenched. My lot, my home, stolen. And then, an idea hit me. A wicked, delicious idea. The revenge plan forms. I dug out our old lawn sprinklers and garden hoses from the garage. My fingers were numb, but my mind was on fire. I dragged everything out, hooked the hose into the laundry room faucet, and cranked on the hot water. That way, the hose wouldn't freeze. But the cars outside, oh, they were about to become ice sculptures. I set up 3 sprinklers, angled just right. The hiss of water filled the night as I watched the first mist settle on shiny windshields and dark hoods. The temperature outside was well below zero. Within minutes, thin, glassy sheets of ice formed. And I didn't stop. Every 30 minutes, I moved the sprinklers to cover new ground. For nearly 5 hours, I worked in silence while the rest of the neighborhood partied. I sprayed directly into locks, into door seams, into grills. The ground itself turned into a skating rink. By the time I was done, the lot looked like a frozen battlefield. Cars encased in thick layers of ice, doors sealed shut, tires cemented to the ground. My anger had melted away, replaced with something else, satisfaction. I packed away the sprinklers, crawled into bed, and slept like a baby. The aftermath. At 4 a.m., it began. Bang, bang, bang. pounding on the doors. The shrill ring of the doorbell again and again. Muffled shouts filled the freezing air outside. I rolled over, smirking in the dark. Let them freeze. Finally, I called the cops, not to complain, but just to report the disturbance. When the officers showed up, I stepped outside with them. What I saw nearly made me laugh out loud. People huddled around their cars, stomping their feet, scraping desperately with credit cards, kicking their tires in frustration. Every single car was locked in solid ice. One officer had to cover his mouth to keep from laughing. The other shook his head in disbelief. Turns out, all these people were invited by one guy, the same jerk who had once driven through our bushes. He lived in another building down the street, and apparently told his party guests they could park in our lot. The cops looked at me, waiting for my call. I pointed to the tow sign, clear as day. They parked illegally. Tow them, and ticket them, too. And that's exactly what happened. In our town, police can ticket on private property if the owner gives the green light. So one by one, every single vehicle got slapped with a ticket. And since none of them could even get inside their cars, the tow trucks had a field day. It was glorious. The best part, watching their faces as the reality sank in. They hadn't just crashed a parking lot. They'd messed with the wrong person. Their friend had set them up, and now they were humiliated, freezing, and hundreds of dollars lighter in fines and tow fees. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lose my temper. I just stood there in the morning cold, smiling as justice was served. You know, it's funny. For years, people walked all over us because we were the nice family with extra parking. But sometimes, kindness gets mistaken for weakness. And that night, I learned, sometimes the sweetest justice isn't just about payback. It's about making sure people never forget that your home, your space, and your respect are worth protecting. If that story gave you chills, hit that like button right now. It helps more than you know. And tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen or pulled off yourself? Don't forget to subscribe for more true tales of justice, karma, and sweet, sweet payback.